My name is Dr. Royce Kimmons. I'm an associate professor of instructional psychology and technology, and today we'll be talking about echo chambers. So we've all had the situation where we've felt like someone else should accept facts that we see and think are obvious. It might be political and related to our belief system. Often it's hard for us to understand why someone else isn't just accepting the things that are so obvious to us and so clear to us.
I am the smartest man alive!
And there might be a lot of reasons for this. There might be psychological reasons, cultural reasons, reasons of experience, a whole variety of things. But today I want to just talk about one specific reason that this sometimes happens, and that's because of what are called echo chambers. The reason I think understanding echo chambers is so important is because it's something that has changed recently. So if we go back 20 years or so, the problem that echo chambers face is quite different than the problem that they face right now, that we face with them right now. Because echo chambers are very much influenced by the technologies that we use in a few key ways. So to understand echo chambers, sometimes these are called filter bubbles or they're similar to filter bubbles. But it's the idea that when you are in a space and you are expressing your opinion or you are just sharing your ideas with the world or sharing your values or opinions with the world, if you're in an echo chamber, you have those same opinions, values, and ideas bounced back to you. So in essence, you are seeing yourself. So if I go and just talk in the mirror, I'm going to have the exact same things bounce back to me that I say into the mirror. And this is true of social media too. So if I go on Facebook and I voice an opinion related to something, Facebook is going to connect me with people or make suggestions or show me ads that align with my opinion and my worldview. And the reason for this is that social media is designed to keep you there. It's not intended to teach you anything. It's not intended to influence your behavior in the sense of trying to get you to choose right or wrong. The purpose of Facebook and other social media platforms is to keep you engaged. And the way that it keeps you engaged is by giving you exactly what you want. So it's like a little toddler. So we're all on the inside like toddlers. If we want ice cream, we sit down and start eating ice cream. If a parent comes, tries to give us vegetables, we're gonna, push the vegetables away and run away. We don't want anything to do with the vegetables unless we're being forced to eat the vegetables. So with Facebook or in other social media, they're just gonna keep giving us ice cream. They're gonna give us candy. They're gonna give us anything that they think that we want. It doesn't matter if it's good for us or not. It doesn't matter if it's true. It doesn't matter if it is good for us personally or good for society. They will give us whatever it takes to keep us engaged. A very clear example of this that I see in my feeds all the time are things like physics lessons. So it'll come up, it'll say, here's a physics problem. You're going to jump a bike off a ramp off of a moving train or something like that. And something is going to happen, and it actually tells you the wrong thing. It tells you something that violates Newton's 3 laws of motion. And so if you click on it, if you go look at the comments, comment after comment after comment, probably like 90% of them actually do understand Newton's laws of motion, and they're saying this is wrong. The truth is that, something specific would happen. But then, you'll have an occasional person that says, oh, no, this is right, blah, blah, blah. The reason that Facebook or companies that use Facebook and social media do that is they don't care about teaching Newton's laws of motion. That's not why they do it. They do it to get engagement. And one of the best and easiest ways to get engagement is to introduce controversy to get people angry or excited, because, just boringness, like people just calmness, that doesn't get people to click. Excitedness, anger, frustration, that does get people to click. So in many ways, it's in the benefit of social media both to feed you what you want, but to feed you what you want in such a way that makes you angrier, more frustrated, more engaged. And so this is true of all of social media, but it's also true of a lot of the tools that we use on a daily basis that we don't realize are socially embedded in some way. So things like a Google search. Say you search for a political topic like abortion, for instance, on Google. Google is not just going to give you the top results of these are the most visited websites related to abortion. What it's going to do, it's going to take what it knows about you. So if you're logged into your Google account, it's going to figure out what your age is, your gender. It knows your geographic location. And from all that, it can build a profile of you, and it starts to predict, okay, this is the kind of person who is moderate or far right or far left. And it's going to feed you information that aligns with your political views and your political values. And it's for the same reason. Google knows that if you have to scan through 100 results before you get to what you want, you're not going to keep using their search engine. So it tries to give you exactly what you want right away. It's going to give you what aligns with their worldview. And so what that does to you as a person in both of those settings, whether you're just searching things or you're on social media, you're constantly being fed information that shows you that you are right, that shows you that this whole world around you, the internet, everything on the internet, everything about all the people around me, all the people that I respect, they all are just like me. They believe the same things I do. And this is a kind of a machine for narcissism. It leads us to we don't see the world the way it is. We don't see other people the way they are. We start to see them as mini me's, as little pieces of ourselves.
I shall call him Mini-Me.
So like, I only see you insofar as you agree with me. And this focus on narcissism is a bit subtle, because instead of making you really like challenge your belief systems or challenge your view of the world as you would like if you were even just to go walk in nature, the thing about nature and the world is that it's very different from us. And it's by being around it, we are forced to adapt and forced to change as a result of it. But when the tools that we use are designed to tell us, exactly what we want and to shape the world in a way that we find agreeable and of interest, then that instead of focusing on the world, we're focusing on ourselves. We start to view the world, we recreate the world in our own image. And so not only do we have a warped view of the world, but our warped view of the world is a view of ourselves. And so it really supports this some really bad psychological traits, including narcissism, where we are viewing the world through a very apathetic lens. We're focused on ourselves. We're focused on understanding the world only insofar as it relates to ourselves. Now, social media allows us to take this one step further and distance ourselves from people that we don't like, or distance ourselves from ideas that we don't like. If something comes up on our feed, we can block it. If someone says something that is that we don't agree with, we can say, okay, I'm not going to be this person's friend anymore. But even beyond that, just the fact that you are friending people or following people means that you are creating a curated list of people that you want to talk to and that you're interested in listening to. And these people tend to be just like us. Because of our social circles, because of our cultural norms, because of our language that we speak, we tend to aggregate with people that are exactly like us.
You gotta be kidding me. Everything you just said is my favorite thing to do every day.
And so what this does is, as I am connecting, for instance, if I'm connecting with other middle-aged white men, that starts to lead me to view the world of like, oh, everybody is a middle-aged male that has these certain beliefs and certain cultural norms and so forth. And as soon as I run into someone who doesn't, so say someone disagrees with my view on something, social media gives us a very handy option to just block that person out or to remove them from our friend list.
I am smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-T.
So an example of how this is really problematic is when it comes to conspiracy theories. So if I have created this curated group of people around me who think just like me, we can very quickly start to believe things or to propagate ideas that other people would challenge.
I heard a theory that they don't like places near water. Maybe we'd be safe from them near a lake or something.
Sounds made up.
And specifically when those ideas relate to people that are not within our very cloistered, very small group. So we might look at everyone who's outside our group or a certain group who is not affiliated with our group and say, those people must be reptiles. Those are evil people. They are actually literally lizards. We believe that they're lizards, and there are conspiracy theories like this. And if I've surrounded myself with people who think just like me, I'm going to get a chorus of people saying, yes, you're right. That's absolutely true. It makes perfect sense.
Back in 82, I used to be able to throw a pigskin a quarter mile. Are you serious? I'm dead serious.
But then if I have some people maybe who think, oh, that's kind of a strange thing, if they articulate some cognitive dissonance with that, social media again makes it very easy for me to push them out. I can't necessarily like decide that, make someone push them outside of my group, but what I can do is I can further isolate myself from others. And so what this allows me to do is I can take my group and move even further away from others so that we become even further isolated and insulated from anyone who would disagree with us. And so what this does is it creates this space where only people who are kind of hyper fixated and hyper focused on the same topics and the same ideas that I am are talking together, and we're sharing all the same ideas. And so then it becomes very obvious to us that, yeah, the facts are that other people are reptiles, and why doesn't the rest of the world accept this? And we don't see that the reason that we believe this, or even what we interpret as facts, are actually just within this little bubble that we've created with very like-minded people. Now, I've mentioned other things other than just social media. So things like news sites, for instance, they also operate on this assumption, and they also feed into this because they want to keep us engaged. So if I go to a news channel, they aren't interested in giving me kind of middle of the road reports on things or unbiased reports on things, because unbiased reports don't get you excited. They don't get you clicking on things. They don't get you moving around the site or arguing with people or going to the comment section. The way that they could keep you engaged is by, first of all, feeding you exactly what you want, meaning giving you things that already align with your biases, like, for instance, telling you that, oh, it's true, here's some more evidence that other people are reptiles. But they feed you things as facts that are specifically designed for you. And they might be facts, they might be true, but they also don't often take into account the larger picture. They don't show you multiple viewpoints. They don't show you how someone else might challenge those quote-unquote facts that they're feeding to you. And the key is they tend to be very angry and manipulative in how they're approaching your emotions. They're trying to get you to believe that there are crises where crises don't exist. They're trying to get you to be really passionate or feel like you have to act on something or have to get other people involved in this thing, because then you're going to point other people to their content. Then you're going to point other people in your Facebook group to go look at this article. And throughout all this, we become more and more insulated and focused on the specific news platform or the specific information source, and we exclude any others. And our justification for that might be, oh, well, that other site is very angry and manipulative. It doesn't share the right facts with the world. And that actually might be true. But it also discounts any other information sources that are more middle of the road or more neutral. And it also prevents us from actually recognizing, what we're doing ourselves, that we are focusing on an information source that is very manipulative of our own behaviors. So all this is a really big problem for a lot of reasons. It, first of all, influences incivility, it influences social unrest, and this is a large reason why we have such political polarization today. And so there's got to be a solution to it. There's got to be a way out of this. So I'm just going to suggest 5 solutions or 5 things we can do to push back against these echo chambers. The first is that we just need to get closer to difference. We need to be willing to keep people in our friend group or friend list who think differently than we do. We need to be able to embrace them. We need to be able to talk with them and to engage with their ideas, and not just assume that because someone doesn't support this bill that I support or this candidate that I support, or doesn't share the kinds of things that I share, they must be evil. They must be in that other group.
I haven't seen you my whole life, and now you come back and just expect a relationship? I hate you.
We need to be willing to embrace them. We need to get closer to our differences. There's a great quote by Bryan Stevenson, who's a famous civil rights lawyer who worked with inmates on death row, what he was finding was that often people just don't care about the plights of others, not because they're insensitive or immoral necessarily, but because they're just distant from them. And he argues that if you're willing to get closer to people who are suffering, you will find the power to change the world. And I think that's true of people who are just different from us too. If you're willing to get closer to someone who has a different political view than you, or just sees the world differently than you, then you'll be able to actually understand the world better, and you'll actually be able to positively influence our social norms. The second is we need to judge ideas and facts from their strongest position. most of the time, because we're operating in an echo chamber and a filter bubble, we only ever see opposite sides of issues through the lens of what's called a straw man argument. So a straw man argument is like, if I go and I try to pick a fight with a bouncer at a bar, I'm going to get my butt kicked, right? If I go, though, and pick a fight with a straw man or a scarecrow hanging up in a field, I'm going to win. I should win that because the straw man can't fight back. This is a common logical fallacy where when a person is presenting an idea of the opposite that they don't agree with, they'll often present it in a very weak, shallow kind of way, like a straw man, like a scarecrow. And the reason that they do that is that it's easy to beat up. So if you go and you watch a particular news outlet that is talking about a political view that they don't agree with, they're never going to give you the really strong arguments for those things that they disagree with. They're always going to feed you a very kind of watered down, very weak version of the counter argument. And so if you really want to judge an idea, in fact, on whether or not it's true, go and find its strongest position. Go and find someone who is actually an expert in that topic and believes something different than you do, and go listen to what they actually have to say. Don't listen to someone interpreting it for you or telling you what it means. Because when they do that, they themselves have a political agenda, and they are only going to feed you a very watered down or weak version of it. I believe that if you have a strong idea or strong political belief, and that if it's true, it will withstand scrutiny. And so you have nothing to fear by going and finding the strong positions that disagree with you. It's the weak positions, it's the weak ideas, believing, for instance, that everyone else is a reptile. That kind of an idea is very easy to disprove, and so people don't go and actually try to disprove it. Rather, they will just look for very weak supports for the things that they believe. The third is to demand evidence, civility, and ethics equally. And what I mean by this is that often when we look at people different from us, we think, oh, they're so weird, or they're just so wrong. They believe things that don't have factual evidence to support them. They're jerks. They are mean to each other. Look at like this bad thing that this person did that thinks differently than I do. And we get really focused on all that, but then we forget or don't even notice that a lot of people who agree with us are operating off of not very good facts, are very uncivil in how they are treating other people, or do downright evil things. And we just ignore those. We just think, oh, if you disagree with me and you don't have evidence, that's bad. But if you agree with me and you don't have evidence, that's good. That doesn't make any sense. Or we think, if someone's a jerk and they disagree with me, well, they're just evil. But if someone's a jerk and they agree with me, oh, they're just passionate about what they believe. They're passionate about the truth.
I'm picking up your sarcasm.
Well, I should hope so, because I'm laying it on pretty thick.
And that's very problematic thinking for a lot of reasons, because it leads us to excuse bad behavior just because someone agrees with us or just because someone is like us. If we really want to make the world a better place, we have to demand evidence, civility, and ethics equally, both from the people that we support and the people that we disagree with. And honestly, we should be demanding higher levels of evidence and higher levels of civility from people that we agree with, even because we believe these things. And if we claim that we believe something, then we should expect certain levels of evidence to be associated with that. The fourth is to prioritize relationships over being right.
Which is better, charcoal or me?
And I know this might sound kind of like Pollyanna-ish or something like that, like, oh, we're dealing with real world problems. We're dealing with war and life and death situations. We should be focusing on being right. Like, it doesn't matter how that makes someone else feel. Well, it does matter, because the way that we solve social problems is through social interaction. The solution to a social problem is a social solution. And so, for instance, it's very strange to me when someone claims that they know like who is right and wrong in the Israeli-Palestine conflict, and they know how to solve that problem, but then they can't even solve a problem in their own family, and they have a conflict that prevents people from their own family from gathering around the dinner table. So you think you can solve an intergenerational conflict that has led to the deaths of thousands of people and that involves cultures and languages and ways of being that you don't understand. But you can't even solve an interrelational problem in your own family. Are you kidding me? So being right and using that as an excuse for alienating people around you is a real problem, especially when those people are very close to you. The way that we interact with people, the way that we treat people is a manifestation of the type of world that we're trying to create. And if I'm trying to tell you that I know the solution to the world's problems, I know what's right and wrong, and so if you just do what I say, then it'll lead to a better world. Well, what I'm showing you is a microcosm of what my world that I'm advocating to you would actually be like. And if my world is a world in which you are treated like garbage, then you're not going to believe in my world ever. So you have to nurture the relationship. And that's even more important than being right, because it is a manifestation of the kind of world that you are trying to create through the knowledge and truth that you are claiming to know. And last of all, I think it's just really important to assume intelligence and goodwill when we approach other people. Assume that other people have thought about the things that they believe in. Assume that other people have evidence for the things that they believe in. Don't just assume that so-and-so is evil and therefore that's why they disagree with you, or so-and-so must be a moron and that's why they disagree with you, or that they're brainwashed and that's why they disagree with you. No, most of the problems that we face in the world are actually very complex, and there are legitimate reasons that people might disagree on pretty complex issues. And so if you approach the problem with bad will, you approach the problem thinking that you know better or that the solution is simple and you know the solution, then it's very othering for the other person. It leads to a space in which you can't even begin to come to common grounds. And it's a place where you can't learn anything yourself because you assume that any evidence they provide to you or any argument they provide is just being provided by an evil person or a moron. And so you don't even allow that to influence you at all. So that's a real problem. We need to assume that people are intelligent. We need to assume that they have goodwill. And I'll tell you, like, I know a lot of people with a lot of different beliefs and a lot of different experiences, and there are a lot of smart people and there are a lot of good people, and we need to be careful just to assume that anyone who thinks differently from us is evil. With all that, I think that we can overcome some of the problems faced by these echo chambers, and I do believe that finding truth is possible in our world, but division and contention are enemies of the truth. And so as we use tools and technologies, as we engage in practices and behaviors, we need to be careful that those tools and technologies and practices and behaviors don't increase division and contention. Because if they do, then they're not leading to truth. They're not leading to a better world. What they're doing is they're leading us to a more isolated, insular world in which we are only focused on ourselves, and it ultimately leads to a very destructive view of the world and a destructive attitude toward our own selves, when we'll just destroy ourselves, destroy our families, and destroy everything that we hold dear. So that's an introduction to echo chambers. I hope that if nothing else, just this video helps you to think, well, how are echo chambers influencing the way that I look at the world? How might they be influencing how I approach problems? And maybe just approach your next interaction with someone else who's operating in a different echo chamber with a little bit of charity, a little bit of mercy, and just think through a little bit how the technologies you're using might be influencing what you're seeing and what you are expecting and accepting to be true.